Hey, here's a question. Has there ever been a killer robot movie where the robot wasn't hot? Obviously, those were cherry-picked, but on some special days, I have given Karen an extra glance or two.
That's because, unlike you, he's a good businessman.
Well, if it isn't the wind beneath my wings.
Why am I talking about bangable robots? Well, it has nothing to do with my dating life. Obviously.
Liar! Liar! Liar!
But recently I saw Companion, which is a robot movie. Who knew, cause I sure as hell didn't. This movie had the blessing of a great trailer. It gave you just enough wow and intrigue to not tell you really much of anything, but also got you hyped for what it could be. Now, how was it? Well, if you have seen it, you may have thought positively. Seems like a lot of people are having lots of nice things to say about it on YouTube. On movie review websites, they are still positives, but not very many reviews at the moment, so that could change in the coming weeks to months. Me, on the other hand, I may be in the minority on this one. Let's get spooky with spoilers, cause I got a lot to say. Okay, let's just get this out of the way. If you saw the trailer to this movie, and there's a fairly decent chance that you have, you would probably expect this to be a very serious movie. Well, that would make you really fucking wrong.
You serious, Clark?
Yeah, so this movie is categorized as a thriller sci-fi on Google, which lines up with its marketing, at least with the first trailer. The sci-fi part may be pretty surprising because it surprised me in the movie, but it's when you look onto IMDb and Rotten Tomatoes, you see comedy and dark comedy thrown in there. And that really took me for a surprise. I had no idea that there was going to be as much humor as there was in this flick. Now, is this a super funny movie? Well, not so much.
Disappointed!
Yeah, maybe it's just me, and because I was taking notes, but I only thought like half of the jokes landed, and the other half weren't like laugh out loud funny. Like, this ain't no Deadstream or Werewolves Within or Wolf of Snow Hollow, which were my most recent favorite horror comedies. But let's break down the plot. The movie starts off with the narration of our main girl, Iris, talking about the most special moments in her life, or something like that. The first is when she met the love of her life, Josh, and the second is when she killed him. Now, normally I would bitch about it being a spoiler, but I could see how that could go in several different ways, so I'll let it slide. But the whole time the narration is happening, she is walking down a grocery aisle and spots Josh, and she's a bit too cute to be so openly crushing on a guy in public that she just met, so this seemed a little fishy right out the gate, but it also reminded me a lot of Fresh.
Your niece said fuck you?
Yeah. 4-year-olds are crazy.
That was a great movie, by the way. We then jump to them driving to a cabin. Iris wakes up and tells him that she had a dream about how they met. Oh, it was a dream. I guess that maybe was why it seemed like it was a story that was too good to be true. Keep in mind, these are my thoughts on the movie while I was watching it. And I went into this movie pretty blind, so I was just taking it all in and letting myself just drown in it, like, So our lovely couple is on their way to a cabin trip with some friends. They are several miles away from anyone else because the guy who owns the cabin is rich. Like, Russian rich.
Васька, ты меня не убьешь? Слушай, как красиво!
So there are three couples. We have Josh and Iris, Kat and Sergey, the owner, or as I like to call him, Sergey, because I have the humor of a 12-year-old. And finally, there's Patrick and Eli, but of course his real name is Gizmo.
Gizmo, shut the fuck up! We're doing a piece to camera.
Josh and Iris unpack from the car, and I only bring up this scene because it made me laugh because Josh is carrying a small duffel bag, meanwhile Iris is carrying both large suitcases.
Gender equality.
Very good, Penelope.
Is this a joke?
Could you imagine? Hey babe, can you carry all of the suitcases in one trip? You're the best. So we unpack it all and we get to meet everyone. Kat is a bitch to Iris. Kat is also seeing Sergey, but she knows that he's a married man and she's just like a side piece. Patrick is hopelessly in love with Gizmo, and at dinner he tells the story of how they met. Iris actually gets up the courage to ask why Kat hates her, and Kat responds that, Iris makes her feel replaceable. But Iris reassures her that she's special and even wishes that she could be more like her because she is fearless. Aw, that's a nice little moment. They dance and Kat dances with Josh, which makes Iris a little jealous, so she pulls him away and makes him dance with her. Aw, she's really possessive of him. And then we cut to the loudest, biggest orgasm of all time. Okay, maybe not of all time, because there is some pretty heavy competition out there. But Josh tried his best, and Iris just kinda laid there. Dude's got terrible game. The next morning, Iris wants to go down to the beach, but Josh says to go on without him. She goes and notices a pocket knife in her shorts and looks at it a little puzzled. Sergey surprises her there and she quickly pockets it. Sergey asks her to give her a little rub-a-dub-dub with some sunscreen, and she does, but then he starts hitting on her aggressively, and then he even forces himself on her, to which she pulls out the knife and goes a little sadness on his ass. She goes to the house covered in blood and everyone is freaking out. Josh asks her what happened, and after she explains it while telling him how terrified she was that she might lose Josh, he tells her to go to sleep, and then her eyes turn white.
What the fuck, Chief?
Since I went into this movie blind, that part surprised the hell out of me. The movie's perspective now changes. Iris is in sleep mode and everyone else is around her talking about what to do. It's obvious that everyone else knew that Iris was a robot, called a companion, except for her.
Hold up. Wait a minute.
This kinda puzzled me. There are not too many movies with robots that think that they are human. Most either know that they are robots and what their purpose is. But the tension usually comes from their programming going haywire, or their purpose grows to extreme measures, either based on an accident or some kind of software that allows them to grow and adapt to their current surroundings, or they represent some kind of sentience and discover a sense of identity and want what goes against what they were made for. But in Companion, there are robots that are literal romantic partners to people. This is a common thing, as we soon find out. Patrick, Gizmo's boyfriend, is a companion as well. Now, not only does it puzzle me as to why they aren't self-aware, but why can't they recognize other companions or people, or tell the difference between the two? Also, why isn't there some kind of mark or tattoo or something to indicate to people that they may be in the presence of a robot? Lots of questions, and I'll be returning back to this later on because it does come up. The humans and Patrick are talking about what to do and assume that a glitch happened in our programming because normally companions aren't allowed to hurt humans or even other companions. When Josh wakes up to tell her what happened and to also say goodbye, he breaks down that she's a robot, but she refuses to accept it. He tells her that the story of them meeting is made up. All of her memories are made up, everything. He even changes her language at will with his phone. Iris eventually gives in, but she still wants to live a life with Josh. Aw, that's pretty sweet. But then Kat, the bitch, comes in freaking out and telling Josh to just shut it all down. He goes and takes Kat into the other room. They talk and it turns out that this was all planned by Kat and Josh. Meanwhile, our girl gets away. Josh tries to stop her, but she checks him in the throat, takes his phone, and then runs away. Josh and Kat confess to Gizmo, who I guess was not in on the plan. They tell him that Josh hacked his companion to be able to be aggressive and create a scenario where she would kill Sergey in self-defense. And apparently it was because Sergey was a terrible guy in general, and also a terrible guy to Kat. But they need Gizmo and his companion to help them track down Iris and kill her so that they can be in the clear. And if he does, he gets a cut of Sergey's fortune, $12 million in his wall safe. Iris is in the woods with Josh's phone, the phone that has all of her settings. So she plays around with it, and of course the actress naturally has brown eyes, and up until now they were blue, so they changed it to obviously give the actress a break from wearing contacts. But a more important thing she notices is her intelligence meter. It's set to 40%, so she ups it to 100%. Now, this doesn't give her godlike intelligence. We did get revealed during the real backstory that the people who make the robots say that 100% is like an Ivy League graduate, and 0% is a dumb mute robot that will mindlessly do whatever you want. So now that Iris is smart, she contemplates the best way to get out of this shit sandwich. search. She figures out that getting back to the house and using Josh's car is the best idea. The couples then break into teams and are on the search. Gizmo and Patrick have a serious chat, and Patrick drops the bombshell that he actually knows he's a robot, and that he has been able to piece it together over the years. But it's okay, he still loves Gizmo, so they have a nice moment, but then Iris, who is hiding out close by, her phone buzzes. So Gizmo chases her out of her spot with one of Sergei's guns. They take a tumble down a hill, the gun is in the distance, they both go for it and wrestle, and of course the gun goes off and kills Gizmo. Iris takes off running without the gun. Guess that 100% intelligence didn't think that was important to take.
Fucking idiot.
Josh is on the chase yelling, Iris go to sleep. Kind of an odd feature to have that only works if you're standing right in front of them. Iris is able to get into the car, but since the car only obeys Josh's voice, she remembers that she still has his phone, so she alters her voice in order to take control of the car. This is actually pretty smart, and this is a pretty cool idea story-wise. She takes off. Josh, also being a pretty smart guy, guns it back to Gizmo's body, and he uses his phone to report his car stolen, which stops Iris before she can even really begin. But he also hits the reset button on Patrick, so his entire programming and history with Gizmo is wiped. And then Josh creates a love connection with Patrick in order to control him. He also does the same hack that he did with Iris and turns his aggression up to 100%. Uh-oh. He even tries to call Iris to convince her to come back to him, and she responds to him in the most cliche of ways to break up with a person, and it's probably one of the funnier parts in the movie. The idea of your bang robot breaking up with you using the old "it's not you, it's me" line is done pretty well. Iris is able to get out of the car and a cop comes by. She thinks fast and changes her default language to German. I didn't mention it before, but these robots aren't capable of lying. So if the cop asked her what happened, she would have to say eventually that she killed 2 people. So that's where things are smart. However, shit is about to get real dumb. I mean Charlie Day dumb.
Come on, all right, see, this is what I'm talking about, illiteracy. You know, what does that word even mean? Come on.
So the cop tries to talk to Iris, but Iris is speaking German, so it's all derp, derp, I don't know what's happening. Hey, writers, you may have forgotten that she's still in her blood-soaked clothes. You would think that a cop would be able to spot dried blood on 90% of her shirts.
But no.
We just have to play this for a few laughs that are okay at best. And back to my previous comment, cops should be able to tell when they are dealing with a robot or a human. There are like hundreds of reasons why there should be telltale signs that you're dealing with a robot, but I guess the writers didn't think that that could ever become an issue. But don't worry, the cop eventually sees Iris's bloody knife in the car and finally puts 2 and 2 together and draws his weapon on her. But don't you fret, my spookies, Patrick comes in with a non-human assist and pistol whips the cop to death, which will never not be a brutal kill. See? Patrick quickly grabs Josh's phone and shuts down Iris. Josh and Kat come back to the house and see Patrick driving the cop car to the place. He brings in Iris and says the cop is in the trunk, so they definitely freak the fuck out, and Kat decides to bail. She grabs half the money and tells Josh the truth that she lied about Sergei being a gangster and a bad guy, and gives the classic bitch response of, well, I actually never said he was a gangster. You just came to that conclusion and I never corrected you. Yeah, here is kind of the reason why I wasn't super into this movie. All of these characters are shitty people. Josh is shit, Kat is shit, Iris and Patrick don't count because they're fucking robots. They are literally told and programmed to do things. The only decent person here is Gizmo, naturally.
Guillermo, you will join us too.
Nah, that's not in my job description.
Kat is leaving to Josh to figure all of this out on his own, but he tells Patrick to stop her. But since he is in aggression mode, he thinks a good way to stop her would be to give her a quick stab in the back, which slowly kills her. 7 Feet Under can understand completely why his mind immediately thought that this would effectively stop her. 'Cause it did. The bodies get recovered and brought to the house. Patrick whips up a nice meal while Iris is handcuffed to her chair, and Josh wakes Iris up and he tries to gaslight her into thinking and accepting that everything was her fault.
Nah.
Josh breaks down his sad life and how everything sucks. He doesn't even own Iris. She's a rental. Keep that in mind because I'm gonna bring it up later in my summary. Iris then lets him have it and just rips him a new asshole, to which he responds calmly by turning her intelligence down to 0%. He asks if she can really feel pain, and then we get the famous trailer moment where she's holding out her hand above a candle and is powerless to keep her hand from catching on fire. Haunting stuff, but I can't help but feel a little disconnected because, yeah, these robots can feel, but do they though? Or is it some internal temperature within them to react to certain words or situations just automatically? Again, I'll cover this shit more later on. He then tells Iris to put the gun to her head and pull the trigger, and she does, though with hesitation. We jump to our guy telling the story to the robot recall team. Patrick is dressed up like a cop to help sell the situation. The robot guys respond with a, hey, we aren't here to crack the case, we're just here to pick up the bots and recover their video and audio files. Josh is puzzled, but there's a hole in her head. The guy goes, oh yeah, that's mostly just like Wi-Fi. Her records are actually stored in her stomach. And they bounce. As they leave, the robot people think that Josh absolutely did it. They have heard BS story after BS story all the time, but Patrick unloads on their car, killing one of them. The other one takes off, but Patrick is out of bullets, so he chases after the guy. Meanwhile, our girl is being rebooted and wakes up and grabs a taser. Okay, shouldn't she be rebooted back to her settings before she shot herself? Like, her intelligence would be at 0. Why would it be at any other level? Not the best writing. So Patrick almost chokes the other robot recoup guy to death. Iris comes in and almost tases him, but he reminds her that her settings are back to normal and she can't hurt him. So he grabs the taser and he almost gets her, but she brings up Gizmo. And for some reason, Patrick, a robot, is able to remember his memories with Gizmo, even though when you delete information, it should be gone for forever. But what the fuck do I know about losing saved game data? He then puts the taser in his mouth and fries himself.
What? Oh, come on!
Why the fuck would he do that? Why would these robots be capable of even comprehending doing something like that? This is such a BS nonsense scene. Ugh, whatever. Iris then asks the robot recoup guy for help. We then jump to Josh grabbing all of the money for himself. If we were being generous and assuming that they were all hundreds, which they probably aren't, all 12 million would weigh around 264 pounds minimum. The dude is gonna have to take several trips to get out of there with all that money. We hear Patrick's voice lure Josh into the other room, but of course we, as the audience, know that it's Iris, so it's not really that spooky or anything, even though it's clearly supposed to be spooky. She reveals that she's in complete control thanks to the robot recoup guy, and since her shooting herself took out her Wi-Fi, she can no longer be controlled by anybody else. She can even lie now. She threatens to kill Josh, but he calls her on her bluff, and she can't seem to do it because he knows that she still loves him and that he is all that she has in life. So he tosses her around like any other generic retard villain against the main character instead of just fucking pulling the trigger. So he finally gets on top of her and aims the gun at her stomach, and she grabs an electric corkscrew and sticks it into his head and kills him. Pretty cool kill, to be honest. Iris then takes a shower and peels off her skin on her burnt arm and grabs the money and leaves. Not sure exactly what a robot is gonna do with $12 million, but I guess you could come up with somewhat decent ideas, and the movie ends. Okay, so I got a lot to say about this. First of all, the humor. There was a lot more humor than what I was expecting, which is easy to say considering I wasn't expecting much. The first trailer made it seem like this was a serious horror thriller, and that's what I was expecting. Is it a bad thing to be surprised? Not necessarily. However, there isn't enough humor for me to consider this movie a dark comedy. It seems like it's not entirely sure what kind of a movie that it wants to be. And on top of that, half of the jokes didn't land for me.
That's not a good start, but keep going.
There were several moments in the movie that didn't really make sense to me, considering that we know that these things are robots. Like, the idea of them not being self-aware that they're robots doesn't make much sense to me, especially when Iris is straight up told that she is a robot. She freaks out. Maybe you tech junkies should let them know that they're robots to avoid problems like this. Patrick at the end thinking of Gizmo and how he's gone makes him put a taser into his mouth and end it all makes no fucking sense to me. Like, not even a little. Why would a robot even think of that as an option? Why would that even be considered a solution to, like, any situation. Iris being rebooted after shooting herself and not being sent back to 0 intelligence, the setting that she was at before, bugged me. I guess you could say that it would revert back to her factory settings, but we saw the scene of her first date with Josh and they never discussed what her default intelligence level actually would be, so it seems kinda sloppy to me. Also, the robot recoup guy making her dangerous to humans and completely free is straight up retarded. It reminded me of those idiots in Westworld for helping out one of those robots even though it would have been stupid easy to shut her down. And the fact that they helped her out even though they knew that she killed a lot of humans is just bonkers. Now on to the characters. Okay, yeah, I already addressed that cop being a useless pig for not realizing that Iris's entire shirt was covered in dried blood, but I also don't give a fuck about any of these people. Seriously, we are led to believe Sergey is a piece of shit Russian gangster, so when he was killed, who cares? And then we have Kat being a lying manipulative bitch to Josh to convince him to cook up this scheme to kill Sergey for his money also made me not care when she died. Iris and Patrick are robots. It's impossible for me to feel much for either of them because they are literally synthetic beings. Their feelings are not our feelings, and their memories, for the most part, are just implanted within them. Same with their personalities. It's again very stupid how there isn't a sign or something to tell random humans that what they are dealing with are robots. Josh is quickly found out to be a piece of shit and the main villain, so nobody's really supposed to like him. And finally, the only likable guy is Gizmo, but he's the first good guy to die, so we don't really get to know him super well before he goes, which was a direct correlation to how much I care when he does die. Here is another issue I have with the robots in this movie. We could think of them as victims of some kind, but the movie doesn't really help with that. Here's why. The most brought up and beloved memories of Patrick and Iris are when they met their partners.
Wait a minute!
Those are made up stories. They never happened. Why should I care? This actually highlights why Patrick's story should have been the centerpiece here, because he and Gizmo actually have a relationship. We know for a fact that they have been together for years, that they have actually built a life together. Gizmo could have upgraded and gotten something else when he got tired of Patrick, but he never did. That's real connection there. But Josh, if you recall, because I sure as shit did, is only renting Iris. He honestly could have gotten her a few weeks before the movie starts, which would make sense because if he couldn't afford to buy her, what's there to suggest that he would have enough money to rent her for an extended period of time?
Nothing!
So Josh being Iris's world feels a little hollow because we don't see their life together. We don't see much of Patrick and Gizmo, but at least we know that they've been together for years, so we can safely assume that they actually do things together other than go to Pound Town. Don't get me wrong, the people in this movie turn out solid performances. I'm feeling a bit bad for Jack Quaid, who plays Josh, because he seems to be typecasted for a wormy, pussy, or a terrible boyfriend character in everything that he's in. I am a big fan of Sophie Thatcher, who played Iris. Yeah, I got a soft spot for pale chicks with black hair because they look like vampires, but that's not important right now. I've heard talk of her becoming a modern scream queen, and yeah, a lot of her recent stuff has been horror related, and I want to throw her into that category, but the next thing she is in needs to be more scary. Companion isn't a very scary movie, mostly a thriller. She was great in Heretic, but also that's a thriller and not super scary. I was a big fan of The Boogeyman, but I know that a lot of other people weren't, so I can't confidently give it too much praise. I know she's in Yellow Jackets, but I haven't seen it. I'll keep her in the running for a modern scream queen along with Jenna Ortega, Sienna Shaw, cause I doubt when Terrifier ends she's leaving horror. Anya Taylor-Joy, though I'd say her next thing needs to also be more horror focused. Hell, thanks to her recent trilogy, you could even throw Mia Goth into the running. But I'd like one more horror movie with Sophie Thatcher in it and have it be more horror focused to definitively prove that she's a modern scream queen. Which I guess is a bit easier said than done these days because modern slashers with sequels are very rare. Back in the era of slashers, scream queens were much easier to come by. Anyways, I'm rambling. That's Companion for ya. Did you see it? What did you think? Let me know down below and keep it spooky.